is anybody running the executive branch of the government? Who is running the executive branch?
Well, sadly, the person who's running the executive branch is a deranged, unhinged, dangerous president of the United States. And only a number of days until we can be protected from him. But he has done something so serious that there should be prosecution against him.
Deranged, unhinged, dangerous man, as Nancy Pelosi stated it. I want to first welcome you to Restricted Republic. My name is Justus Knight, today joined by a very special guest, Lisa Haven. The reason I brought her on is nobody's knowledge has watched this from start to finish more so than hers. She's predicted much of what we're going to discuss. The only difficulty I'll bump into is trying to keep her focused on one thing because so much goes on in that brain of hers. And it's been 48 hours for all of us of just a crushing amount of information. What's happening around us right now? Why is Nancy doing what she's doing? The title, and you read the title earlier, was Red Alert. You can't unhear this. That's not the clip that you can't unhear. I'm going to play it for you. It's shocking. It's appalling. It's disgusting in so many ways. And in my opinion, it should be a critical error. But what we've seen over 48 hours is now making me not so certain of that. But we're going to cover that. We're going to ask you some questions. But more importantly, I'm going to ask her a lot of questions. Because what did Nancy Pelosi just do is a huge question. And Lisa Haven is, as you know, we share the Restricted Republic platform. We created that in preparation for what's occurring around us. Everybody, I can't remember in the beginning, why are you doing it? Nothing's going to happen. What's the big deal? Come on. You're making too much out of it. Nobody will ever shut down millions and millions and millions of people. Well, it just happened. If you think we live in a free country anymore, you're wrong. What did Dan Bongino say?
That's basically what he said.
Right?
And a lighter down version. Yes.
Yeah, and a watered down version. And that's the imperative part of here. So there's a few stories that we wanted to touch on first. And I'm going to put them on your screen before we go any further. Pelosi asked the Pentagon about preventing Trump from using the nuclear codes. Now, most of America, because Sense and Sensibility would say, oh yeah, Nancy said that Trump is making a lot of mistakes. He's deranged. She's crazy. So, man, to me, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe we should remove his ability to launch a nuclear attack. And America just kind of went along with it, except there's one major problem with that. Pelosi pressed Pentagon on safeguards to prevent Trump from ordering military action. Well, what do the people in charge have to say about that? Mr. Trump, they noted, is still the commander-in-chief. Unless he is removed, the military is bound to follow his lawful orders. While military officials can refuse to carry out his orders they view as illegal or slow the process down by sending those orders for careful legal review, they cannot remove the president from the chain of command. That would amount to a military coup. Important statement there, because what you do now, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter if you like Trump or you don't like Trump, the decisions that you are either reinforcing, promoting, and this is going to be personal for you, I know, for what's happened to you over the last 24 hours alone, can happen to the other side equally as quick, and we have to tread very carefully. Now,
yeah, I mean, I think there should have been a better title on that article, but of course, it's New York Times. They're not going to title it. And here's the title to the article. Nancy Pelosi asks for a military coup against the President of the United States. That's what she did. She is basically saying, I'm going to act in the place of president, and I want these actions done and pushed forward. This is a usurp of her authority and a call for a military coup. That is by definition and exactly what she's done here. And all in the name of, as you heard in the beginning of the report, of Trump being deranged and a racist and a xenophobic, or now they're putting the label of a violent man, regardless of the fact that these people on the left, and I'm so tired of the hypocrisy, have been calling for violence. I had a little Facebook spat with an old friend of mine. Unfortunately, after this, I'm sure we won't be talking so much anymore. And I wish that was just not the case, because it is exactly what the government wants. They want to divide us by race. They want to divide us from each other. So we're constantly battling here and not worrying what's going on around us, when in reality, we've always had that unification. And they're breaking us apart like never before. But what I had told her is, I said, look, you can hate Trump, you can worship, you can be happy or mad or upset about him being removed. The bottom line, this is our freedom of speech. He's been removed from platforms. They're calling him all kinds of names. But let's recall back in 2018 what happened with Judge Kavanaugh, where we had leftist Democrats, Kristen Gillibrand was even there, and they invaded the Senate building. Same kind of invasion that you saw at the Capitol happened in 2018. But the media took it, spun it, and said, oh, these are just people who are very upset and they have every right to be upset. 300 people were arrested at that 2018 breach into the Senate building, but nothing iota. Kristen Gillibrand, all her stuff stayed online. Nobody removed or took her off social media. But what happens to them is not the same as what happens to those anywhere center, right of center. And this is the hypocrisy of it. And I know I'm kind of expanding here, but the other thing is, we had Anaya Presley call for unrest in the streets, and she was allowed to stay on Twitter and every single platform. AOC said, if you're a Trump supporter, you need to be listed and labeled. Allowed to keep the tweet, allowed on all your social media platforms. We had Maxine Waters say that if you own a business, you need to kick Trump supporters out of it and basically, keep them out of the business. And AOC's list, by the way, that they were creating was so that if you owned a business, you wouldn't be able to hire a Trump supporter. This is what we have seen before in history's past. If we study history, I'm going to just say Nazi Germany, for example, right? Obviously, we're not being dragged yet, and God, I hope that doesn't ever happen, to camps. But what did they do in the beginning? They kept Jews from businesses. You see, it's a personal business. I have a right to keep anyone I want out. And this is what's happening to conservatives right now. These big social media techs are saying, we're going to keep you out. We have a right. It's my business. And then on top of that, we have banks, we have Uber, we have businesses, all keeping conservatives out of their business. This is an attack on a political view.
It is. And we're going to tell you some methods to get around this attack. We're about to play you the clip that you'll never be able to unhear. I'm going to ask you at this point, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I certainly hope you will, no matter what platform you're watching this on. I hope you'll subscribe to Lisa Haven also on the platforms. I hope you'll go over to our platform, restrictedrepublic.com. Right now, because of all this, the membership has grown beyond what our wildest expectations, because people now finally are waking up to what's happening, to everything we've been warning. And this platform that we do, we're beholden to no one, no sponsors, no advertisers, just the news. We're beholden to you, our audience. That's it. Right now we have a coupon. What are we running right now?
Trump. So $5 a month for an entire year. This is one of the cheapest we've done for a monthly rate. So get it while you can. And we figured, in light of everything, we're going to give you a really, really good offer on that. So
okay. Now I'm warning you. If it's probably one of the most difficult clips you're going to hear. Nancy made the critical error. That thing you're not supposed to say out loud. She skipped a word. One word, which changes everything.
I thought it was going to be an epiphany for those who were in opposition to our democracy to see the light. Instead, it has been an epiphany for the world to see that there are people in our country, led by this president, for the moment, who have chosen their whiteness over democracy. That's what this is about.
It's a rough clip.
Well, I mean, her face morphed and changed. Who have chosen their whiteness over democracy. This is pitting. She's pitting one race against another. There really is no way to put that. When you're labeling, they're putting their whiteness, then you're saying whiteness is bad, and somehow they must be privileged. And society needs to call out this whiteness. This is the underlining message. And I have never seen race tensions in the United States of America unlike today that I have ever seen in my entire life. I think all of you can agree. This is a race war being pushed up from above. And I don't want to be I don't want to have any part of it. And that's the problem. They're really dividing old friends from who have been friends long time. I've literally had people that I've known forever. Well, you have white privilege. No, I haven't. And I get so mad. I was so broke, and I've said this on my channel before. I don't know. I never had white privilege growing up. My dad was disabled. He's still disabled, right? I had to survive sometimes off of food banks. I was poor. I grew up in a single wide trailer. We had sewage problems. I dealt with cockroaches. I have stolen. I stole bra once, got in trouble for it. Why? Because I couldn't afford it. I know what all of this is like, to sit there and tell me that I'm privileged. And I've also had I've been turned away for scholarships, and I've been turned away for jobs because I'm white, because I wasn't a minority. And that's the kind of thing that they're just throwing over and over again is race warfare. And it really reminds me of Lenin, what Lenin did. And that's why I think it terrifies me more, because I don't care what color of skin you have. I think it should be based on the merit of the person. Like Martin Luther King Jr. said, it should always be based on the on who the person is. I wish really you could have that interview without anybody behind the screen. Great, there you go. Now you hire based purely off merit, right? But this is not what's happening. And I just feel like our government is using this to break apart longtime friends, brothers and sisters, and people who have known each other for a while, putting these things in their brains and minds to pit one class like the enemy. But this is the exact thing that Lenin did. Lenin created, you had rich class versus poor class, proletariat versus Borygines, and he pitted them against each other. See, they tried that here in the U.S., but that wasn't our hot button. The hot button was the race war here in the U.S. But you can accomplish the same thing, and that is eventually a complete takeover of the political system, which is what Lenin did. And then he installed his Red Guard, and he even turned on his own after that, which is upcoming.
No question it's upcoming, and that's where we're at now. You see here on Fox News, Pelosi, Capitol rioters choose their whiteness over democracy. One of the most despicable statements when they're supposed to be banding for unity right now. This is not unity. That's not calling for unity. They're not done yet. That's Nancy Pelosi, in my opinion, saying, we're nowhere near over. You guys have no idea what's coming. They're going to roll it over. Maybe she's just upset that her laptop got stolen from her office. Maybe they're worried that there's something that they want to make sure is just kept quiet. Is it just conservative voices? We may never know, because they have something that they have to contend with. The fact that how many millions and millions and millions of people voted for Trump. What have you now called every one of those people? When Trump's approval rating, as you see here on Real Clear Politics, a Rasmussen poll in actuality, actually raised his approval rating. It went up. It never went down. So you're going to take everybody who moved over to Parler, and they shut off of Facebook and Twitter when they saw what happened to the president. It's not only that they saw what happened to the president. It's become such a singular argument. They want it to be a singular argument. It's against everyone who voted for him in reality. What's wrong with Parler? What's wrong with us having a voice? It's kind of funny that Facebook and Twitter finally found a way to get rid of everybody that they so despise, but yet they go ahead and shut down everything that they so despise, so everybody will have to come back.
Well, basically, they don't want us to have a platform. So they want to remove us from theirs and prevent us from going anywhere to speak.
Yes.
Why? Because we're the new persecuted class. It's what it is. And I think we have to start admitting that at some point. I've had people, Laura Loomer, she's spoken about being banned by Uber. We had an Uber and Uber Eats and other
PayPal banning.
PayPal's banning people. Shopify is banning the president, saying, "Oh, you can't sell merchandise." Again, I am literally terrified for our future. But to see it in our face like this, and the good side is, I think the public is starting to wake up to some of it. Not all of them, because you also have the other side that's going way left, and they're radicalizing, and they're saying, well, this is acceptable because you deserve it, because fill in the blank. They'll give you whatever label they feel like giving you. Even it doesn't even have to be true. Like calling the president a racist, a xenophobic, or labeling all his supporters as such. This is what they're doing. And again, they gave labels to Jews in Nazi Germany. And we see the same thing playing out today.
And you're going to see a lot. We're going to cover some of the things you can do. I know many of you have moved over to Parler. We're asking you to continue to. Actually, Dan Bongino even requested the more that move over, the better. And you don't need an app. This is critical. If you believe you need an app to run anything, you're wrong. Go to the internet, type in the name of what you're looking for, parler.com, for example. Go ahead and log in through your web browser and save it to your home screen. If you use an Apple device, you have to go through Safari to do that. That's that simple. And so you see here the CEO of the company, and what's he showing? He's suddenly not number one. Now, why is that so critical? You see top charts for downloaded apps. Well, because Parler had jumped to number one overnight after what happened with President Trump's banning on Twitter. That was a huge problem for the tech titan. You'll see here that Parler was number one. They had stormed the chart. America had woken up. Why did they wake up? This Breitbart article, 9 tech platforms that would have blacklisted, that have blacklisted President Donald Trump. You were just referring to this. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, Shopify, as you mentioned, Reddit out of all of them goes ahead and bans one of Trump's pages. TikTok, the Chinese app decides to ban the president. We now have TikTok banning people, and then Twitch, which would have been his live stream. Go ahead.
And I'm going to add something there because I think this is very important. Is a lot of people have said, well, they have every right to ban whoever they want because they're a private business, and this is the ludicrousness of what's going on here. Before. Yeah, because the argument has been used before. I get it, but when you have multiple platforms working together to ban somebody for their political view, which is what's happening here, that's really what's happening, then what's going to happen to society? You're going to see a divide. You're going to see businesses rise up and support one side and businesses rise up and support another. And you're going to completely break up society, which is, I think, what they want. And so you'll start seeing in public, call it segregation of political viewpoints. Conservatives can only shop at these little places, but everybody else is going to kick them out. And because the conservative mass is not as big as, say, the leftist or Democratic side, it's going to be few options for any conservatives, and you can find yourself without banks, you could find yourself without the ability to get rides based off of that. And this is the society that we're literally being led into.
100% you're being led into it. It's why Amazon then goes ahead and pulls Parler's server. It wasn't bad enough. Amazon actually owns Parler's server. They're going to go ahead. Anybody who's worried about that, though, by the way, if you just read to the CEO, they're going to reestablish it. He's estimating by Tuesday morning at the latest. Yeah. They'll move servers. It's why you just can't give up. This has shown that America's resilience isn't what anybody thought it was. The minute the tough gets going, everybody's like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to go back to Facebook and Twitter. You can't do that. You know that they're pushing you into those platforms on purpose. How did they know who to ban so quickly? How did they know? Because you've already been logged, you've already been registered, your viewing history's already been recorded. They just went to their list and pushed a button.
You don't want to be affiliated with that anyway. You just don't. You don't want that tracking.
No, and you'll see here, just put some basis behind this. Here's the Amazon employees for climate justice. Those are the ones who called for this service to be shut down, and so it was done. Amazon boots Parler off web hosting service. We're showing you all this because remember the list I just mentioned. In case you were wondering, here's the seditious 126 Republican House members. They are documenting which House members they are calling seditious. Remember now, any conservative that used those words in any of their videos or publications were banned for saying it. Immediately, you couldn't say it. Why Lisa has reported on this for so very long, but now you have a lot of people coming into the mix that weren't there before. The ACLU on Trump's permanent ban, and I'm going to try to increase this. It's going to be very hard to read. For months, President Trump has been using social media platforms to seed doubt about the results of the election and to undermine the will of voters. This is per the ACLU. We understand the desire to permanently suspend him now, but it should concern everyone. When companies like Facebook and Twitter wield the unchecked power to remove people from platforms that have become indispensable for the speech of billions, especially when political realities make those decisions easier. President Trump can turn his press team or Fox News or to communicate with the public, but others, like the many Black, brown, and LGBTQ activists who have been censored by social media companies, will not have that luxury. It is our hope that these companies will apply their rules transparently to everyone. It's the ACLU coming out now and saying, wait, if you do it to him, by the way, guys, just so you all understand, they can apply this to anybody. Your opinion right now, you may feel, is in line with the populace. You think everything's going perfect. You're brilliant, just like your friend. Thinks everything's happy. Oh, goodness, everything's finally fallen in check. The government has proven one thing. The day will come where they disagree with you. And when that day comes, if they were to enforce everything they're enforcing and allow it to continue, your voice goes down overnight. It's not so good when the shoe's on the other foot. They just don't realize that's coming.
That's right.
We can continue now. Michael Cohen, yes, the wonderful and brilliant and trying to be nice here. Michael Cohen, I've been asked and have agreed to cooperate with multiple government agencies to provide testimony on the wrongdoing by Trump and the Trump family. I am doing this in large part as Trump and family have tried and thankfully failed to destroy America's democracy. You see, everybody is now coming out of the woodwork. And by the way, for those of you who aren't aware how deceptive and how evil this can all be, there was a tweet that came out from the Office of Pardon Attorney. By the way, that is not legitimate. And it asked if you were at the Capitol to go ahead to add your name, your phone number, your city, and what crimes you thought you may have committed inadvertently at the Capitol so that Trump could pardon you. This was a fraud. This was fake. Department of Justice came out and said, please don't pay attention to the tweet that came out. This is how much is going on over 48 hours. This is why we haven't slept. It's why we've been on our phones. It's why we've been trying to make sure we inform everybody to what's going on. Does anybody want violence in the Capitol building? No. Absolutely not. That shouldn't even be a statement. The fact that everybody has to keep saying that over and over again is sickness in itself. That's not what.
But the mainstream media didn't have to say it in 2018
They never
for
do.
Judge Kavanaugh. That's what makes me the hypocrisy. I'm just livid. People forget. We forget things, and so it's very easy in most people who are listening. We have to constantly remind them. Look, it happened in 2008 when the left and the Democrats seized the Senate building. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? That's what we would say. And you could show the articles because you can bring them up online. 300 people arrested, only 80 some odd. It may be higher now at, with what went on at the Capitol. But, I mean, you can compare the two and see the difference of how mainstream acted to one and how they're acting now and how they're literally banning and barring people by the thousands.
And we're going to teach you. We're almost there. We're going to show you everything you need to do, and it needs to be done today. You can't wait, because I can't guarantee where we will appear or not appear tomorrow. Anybody who didn't believe that and had a shredded doubt in their mind, if you still do, you need to seek help. Just going to be real blunt with you at this point, because it's the only thing that seems to work. Because the mainstream media that everybody trusts so much, while all this is occurring, our freedoms are being shredded. What does Fox News decide to cover? Vogue's Kamala Harris cover sparked social media frenzy. They were unhappy with this picture. That's what Fox News deemed important at this time to cover. The fact that Vogue didn't do a good enough picture for Kamala Harris. When this is another article, a truth reckoning, why we're holding those who lied for Trump accountable.
And that's people who are affiliated with the President of the United States of America.
Yep.
This is a media company attacking the President of the United States. Ergo, again, the media is trying to show they have more power than the President himself.
Another list. Pictures. Identification. Remembering now Twitter, who shut down the president. Funded Colin Kaepernick, whatever you may think about him, I know what our opinion is, gave him $3 million after he asked to incite the exact same thing that they are now declaring Trump did. But that's okay then. It's not okay now. So we're going to ask very quickly, and this shows that people are understanding what's happening. You think you need an app. By the way, Gab doesn't have an app. It doesn't exist. But yet 10,000 users per hour figured out how to put on a social media platform without an app. You have to become one of those 10,000 users. Join us at Gab. I'm going to show you everything we're doing right now. We're on Mayway. If you haven't joined us there, you need to get over there. We're on Gab. Absolutely. We're on Rumble, by the way. Join us over there. Parler. Absolutely critical. Don't care what they say about it shutting down. Get over there. We need the numbers right now. Kodi is another upstart platform, but we keep prepared for everything. That's why I'm showing that. And I want to give you some closing thoughts here, because we have gone on a rant over the last 72 hours. We've been attempting to educate everybody what to do. Everything you have said for so many years has come true. You have spent blood, sweat, tears, time, aggravation to create everything you've had. And overnight, you're just watching them come after it.
Yeah, it's heart-wrenching, but and what I think is even more heart-wrenching is hearing people who have been friends with you forever say, "Oh yeah, well, that your whole side deserves it." Like, and this is literally the rhetoric, or people that I've met, and it's not friends. I've got lots of friends who are great people on our side, right? But I mean those who are Democrats specifically, or leftist, liberal-leaning people who you've known them forever, and they're okay with the censorship of the President of the United States, and they don't even realize how bad it's gotten. And it's like, oh no, it's misinformation and hate. It needs to get off the internet. I mean, this is literally a belief, and they really think, oh, there's something wrong here. When at the same time, people on their own side have said the exact same things Trump has, far worse. And yet they're allowed to stay on. They don't see the hypocrisy in that. Twitter is allowing Antifa violence, Antifa claims, talking about bloodshed and all of that on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And the mainstream media doesn't talk about that. Why? Because the mainstream media and Twitter are friends, because they're both left radical groups, right? So they stick together and they support each other. But when Parler comes up and it's more of a Republican and conservative platform, let's find the one bad tweet or a couple bad tweets that we can find and say, oh, they're promoting violence, and tell everybody in America. So everybody sees, the ones who are sleeping, like a lot of Democrats, come out and say, oh, there's violence on Parler. Well, there's also violence on Twitter. I haven't heard any of that in the mainstream media. Well, of course not, because they're in bed together. And this is the idea that really breaks my heart, that, if you're going to do something to one, do it to the other. Where's the fairness and equality? And we're not seeing that. It's if you're left, you're given a pass. Mm-hmm. You can be violent. You can call for violence. And that's what breaks my heart. Nobody should be calling for violence on either side of the fence.
Ever.
Yeah, here we are.
This was, in my opinion, a very long thought out situation. They're going to silence you. Then the objective will be next, and we can almost guarantee it will be to disarm you. That will be next. The next step you probably don't want to know. And it was the only way they control. And the only
just say Bible prophecy. That's
yes.
what we'll say. Bible prophecy, I think, is eventually going to play out. So
yeah, we're gonna leave it at that. And you're seeing evidence of everything we've talked about. If you haven't gone to Restricted Republic, please get there. There is so much more news. This one we wanted open up to all platforms, so we're being a little bit guarded as to what we're saying over there. We're not guarded as to what we say. So please join us right now. Use that Trump discount code at monthly checkout. Get $5 a month each month for 12 months, because it's imperative that you hear what real news sounds like, unfiltered, uncensored, beholden to no one. And now you see why we can be beholden to no one but our audience and you. And thank you so much for coming aboard. And
thank you again.
Join
and I love all of you also.
Make sure you subscribe to her, please. On all her platforms. She's everywhere also. Godspeed and God bless. Until next time, Justus Knight signing out.